An interview with a tribal leader. On-screen credit reads, Michelle Hicks, Principal Chief, Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians.
Federal administrations change, and so the hard part is it's always a tough educational process because you have many states in the United States that are represented by Congress or Senate. They don't have tribes in their states. And so, again, it's a continual process trying to make sure that they're aware of our history, they're aware of our needs, and they're aware of the promises that this federal government made, years ago around some of these big issues that we need to take care of our people.
The title of the course appears in time with the narration and decorative graphics.
Welcome to Module 2 of the course, Introduction to Tribal Consultations. By the end of this module, you will be able to summarize the historic and legal foundations underpinning the development and role of tribal consultation today, as well as the executive policy requirements for conducting tribal consultation.
Part of the Constitution is shown on screen with emphasis slightly zooming in on Article 6, several old photos. Their on-screen captions read, Old Supreme Court Chamber in 1819 to 1860, Architect of the Capitol, President Calvin Coolidge with 4 Osage Indians after signing the Indian Citizenship Act, 1925 Library of Congress, President Obama greeting Lisa Marie Ayotte, 2010 Pete Souza.
The Constitution and early Supreme Court cases formed the initial foundation for the government-to-government relationship between the United States and tribes by recognizing tribal inherent sovereignty that existed before the United States and still exists today.
On-screen text matches the narration. Stock video of Yosemite appears with clouds moving in the distance, and then a stock photo of a rocky arch with the beautiful evening stars fading off into the distance as the sun rises.
As noted in Module 1, fundamental principles such as sovereignty and the nation-to-nation relationship between the federal government and tribal nations are introduced in the Understanding Tribal Treaties and Reserved Rights training course. If you have not already done so, we strongly encourage you to take that course. The overall concept, importance, and practice of tribal consultation is built on those fundamental principles. Therefore, they are essential for you to know and understand as well. In addition, many consultations may include discussion of tribal treaties and reserved rights.
A group of people gathers to take a photo in an open field and fades into a photo of a woman in tribal regalia speaking to a group. Photo credits read Department of the Air Force Tribal Consultation Video Instruction 90-2002 Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center.
Since that time, both federal law and executive policy have continued to build on that foundation in support of tribal self-determination, autonomy, and cultural preservation.
A screen recording of a notice from the federalregister.gov page, Indian entities recognized by and eligible to receive services from the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs. The website URL, federalregister.gov, appears on the screen. The web page begins scrolling through a long list of federally recognized tribes.
Today, there are over 570 federally recognized Indian tribes and Alaska Native entities.
On-screen text matches the narration, followed by a video clip of a picturesque valley with the riverbank in view. Then a small text bubble with black text and white background appears on the center of the screen addressing policies. Video clip of the valley fades, followed by a video clip of a small creek flowing through the forest.
Consequently, having a formal process and policies for federal engagement with such a large and diverse group of tribal nations is more important now than ever.
On-screen text matches the narration. Then the text Executive Order 13175 appears at the top of the screen and stays there until the end of the segment. An image of a group of people standing in front of a building smiling for a picture, some in Air Force fatigues and one in tribal regalia. On-screen caption reads Department of the Air Force Tribal Consultation Video Instruction 90-2002 Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. The caption stays visible through a montage of photos and videos of Air Force personnel and tribal members working together in various locations.
These are the executive policies currently in place to provide direction and guidance to agencies. Presidential Executive Order 13175, Consultation and Coordination with Indian Tribal Governments, was issued November 6, 2000. Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation was issued on November 5, 2009. Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation and Strengthening Nation-to-Nation Relationships was issued on January 26, 2021. Presidential Memorandum on Uniform Standards for Tribal Consultation was issued on November 30, 2022.
On-screen text matches the narration. Then the text Executive Order 13175 appears at the top of the screen and stays there until the end of the segment. An image of a group of people standing in front of a building smiling for a picture, some in Air Force fatigues and one in tribal regalia. On-screen caption reads Department of the Air Force Tribal Consultation Video Instruction 90-2002 Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. The caption stays visible through a montage of photos and videos of Air Force personnel and tribal members working together in various locations.
Presidential Executive Order 13175, Consultation and Coordination with Indian Tribal Governments, states that when a federal agency is making rules, decisions, or comments on laws that may affect tribes, the federal-tribal relationship, or the distribution of power between the federal government and tribes, the agency must conduct formal government-to-government tribal consultation with tribes. It further requires federal agencies to engage in regular and meaningful consultation with tribal governments. This executive order aims to respect tribal sovereignty by involving tribal leaders in policy development and actions that affect their nations. On issues relating to tribal self-government, tribal trust resources, or Indian tribal treaty and other rights, each agency should explore and, where appropriate, use consensual mechanisms for developing regulations, including negotiated rulemaking. Executive Order 13175 also requires agencies to have their own tribal coordinators and consultation policies. Within your particular agency, you are expected to become familiar with both.
The Air Force video keeps playing as the topic changes. The phrase, the Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation, appears at the top of the screen and remains there until the end of the section. Other on-screen text matches the narration. The Air Force montage ends and is replaced with stock footage of a river, then some houses in Monument Valley, Utah.
The Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation states that agencies are charged with engaging in regular and meaningful consultation and collaboration with tribal nations in the development of federal policies that have tribal implications and are responsible for strengthening the government-to-government relationship between the United States and Indian tribes. It further emphasizes that failure to include the voices of tribal nations in formulating policy affecting their communities has all too often led to undesirable and, at times, devastating and tragic results. In contrast, meaningful dialogue between federal officials and tribal leaders has greatly improved federal policy toward tribes. Therefore, consultation is a critical ingredient of a sound and productive federal-tribal relationship.
On-screen text reads Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation and Strengthening Nation-to-Nation Relationships, followed by text on screen matching the narration.
The Presidential Memorandum on Tribal Consultation and Strengthening Nation-to-Nation Relationships emphasizes the importance of honoring tribal sovereignty and including tribal voices in policy discussions. It also reaffirms the principles of Executive Order 13175, directing federal agencies to create detailed plans for engaging with tribal nations in order to strengthen the nation-to-nation relationship and ensure that tribal leaders have input in decisions that impact their communities.
The text, Presidential Memorandum on Uniform Standards for Tribal Consultation, followed by text on screen matching the narration. Stock nature footage shows deer running across a field. Then a group of birds basking in the water and flying upwards the screen. Finally, a close-up of a tree branch with rain dripping from the leaves.
The Presidential Memorandum on Uniform Standards for Tribal Consultation establishes uniform minimum standards to be implemented across all agencies regarding how tribal consultations are to be conducted. The President issued the memorandum in response to input received from tribal nations regarding how the tribal consultation process can be improved and streamlined for both tribes and federal participants, and to ensure more consistency in how agencies initiate, provide notice for, conduct, record, and report on tribal consultations. Note, however, that it only provides baseline standards. Consequently, agencies are encouraged to build upon these standards to fulfill the goals and purposes of Executive Order 13175, consistent with their unique missions and engagement with tribal nations on agency-specific issues.
On-screen text matches the narration, with video of a shallow body of rippling water as background, then more text on screen matching the narration.
In addition to these executive policies, here are some examples of federal laws requiring consultation with tribes. This list is not exclusive. National Historic Preservation Act, NHPA, requires federal agencies to consult with tribes when their projects may affect historic properties of significance to tribes. National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, mandates consultation with tribes on environmental impacts of federal projects. Archaeological Resource Protection Act, ARPA, ensures that tribes are consulted when archaeological resources on tribal lands are at risk. Native American Graves Protection and Repatriation Act, NAGPRA, requires consultation with tribes regarding the treatment and repatriation of Native American human remains and cultural items.
On-screen caption reads Department of the Air Force Tribal Consultation Video Instruction 90-2002 Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. The caption stays visible through a montage of photos and videos of Air Force personnel and tribal members working together in various locations.
We encourage you to work with your legal department to further understand the implications of these executive policies and applicable laws. In preparation for this course, we engaged tribal leaders and received feedback on why consultation is important and how it can be improved.
Tribal leaders stated that consultation is crucial for respecting their sovereignty, protecting their rights, and ensuring that federal actions benefit rather than harm their communities. Listening to tribal voices and including them in policy discussions builds trust and strengthens the nation-to-nation relationship.
An interview with a tribal leader. On-screen credit reads Benjamin Barnes, Chief, Shawnee Tribe.
The United States, people in not just legislative office, but also administrative positions, need to remember that the tribal nations are the first and best partners. We're not the last partners. Don't come to us at the very last and ask us what we think. We should be the best partners the United States have, and we can be and are. And some of those relationships that have been very effective, as speaking on behalf of the Shawnee Tribe, is with the U.S. Forest Service, particularly in Region 9. And part of that is also because they hire natives. And so there's natives within that organization that connect them to the tribal nations. And it's important that the tribal nations are spoken to because we're the governments of the indigenous peoples that are original to this country. To not tokenize our citizens and try to talk to an individual native to get the native perspective. Go to those nations, because this is a government-to-government relation. This is not about consulting minorities.
An image shows a group of people smiling for the camera with a rocky, hilly background. On-screen caption reads Department of the Air Force Tribal Consultation Video Instruction 90-2002 Air Force Installation and Mission Support Center. The caption stays visible through a montage of photos and videos of Air Force personnel and tribal members working together in various locations.
In terms of improving consultation, tribal leaders stated that consultation should occur early and often, i.e., as soon as an agency identifies a project, policy, or regulation that may potentially impact tribal lands, people, programs, or rights. These same tribal leaders indicated that, in their experience, Tribal consultation frequently occurs late in the decision-making process or after a federal decision has been made.
An interview with a tribal leader. On-screen credit reads Leonard Finde, Secretary-Treasurer, Leech Lake Band of Ojibwe.
So I think some key steps as it relates to tribal consultation for federal employees is to not go into the consultation with a predetermined decision already made. I have been part of many conversations with federal employees that have been labeled as consultation, where a decision was being made, had been made already, and the consultation was just to check a box that needed to be checked because of an executive order or even a statute. And for us as Indigenous people, that's not something, that's a waste of our time. If there's a decision that's already made, just do it. Don't waste our time. But what we really want to see is a relationship, a meaningful relationship. And I think that that's the foundation of consultation, is to have a relationship. And that means that there's ongoing communication, ongoing dialogue. It's not just a one-time meeting. It's not just a one-time event, but it's something that's happening on an ongoing basis. And that if an agency is going to be making a decision that impacts a tribe, and they know they're going to be making that decision, they should, as early as possible, be reaching out to the tribal government, letting the tribal government know, and informing the tribal government and allowing the tribal government to provide its opinion and work together as closely as possible.
A montage of photos from the DOE Tribal Clean Energy Summit 2024, U.S. Department of Energy. A close-up image of a woman and man listening attentively to a speaker, followed by an image of a woman and speaking to two individuals with others in the background, as well as a picturesque view of mountainous hills. A photo of a man speaking through a microphone while people around him are listening, followed by a different view showing the stage and the people facilitating event. It proceeds to show people listening attentively to the speaker. The montage showcases different angles of the conference room for event, different speakers, and different views of the audience actively listening and engaging in conversation with the speakers.
Additional feedback included a request to adhere to the requirements of the Plain Language Act. Specifically, the government should use plain, declarative language in the development of federal regulations, policies, and other written documents. Using unclear legal language may create barriers for participation. Plain language helps create equity and engagement in consultation. In addition to this tribal leader feedback, agencies should also be mindful that consultations require a significant number of resources and effort on the part of tribes. Agencies should engage in regular, meaningful, and robust consultation with tribal officials, but agencies should also be thoughtful and strive to make the consultation process efficient and not overburdensome. This can include considering joint agency consultation on matters where agencies need to consult on same or similar issues, and giving tribes ample time in the process to provide feedback.
An interview with a Native woman. The on-screen credit reads Laverne Sam, speaking as Management and Program Analyst, U.S. Department of the Interior Bureau of Trust Funds Administration Navajo, Dene.
And a good thing to do is partner with other federal agencies in your area to find out if they have any consultations that they may have so that you can coordinate it with them and they can come to, kill two birds with one stone, because not all tribes have resources to travel all over and attend every consultation for everything happening in the United States. So be mindful that not every tribe is loaded with resources to travel and attend them. So think out of the box on ways to coordinate that effort with other federal agencies.
A montage of photos from the DOE Tribal Clean Energy Summit 2024, U.S. Department of Energy, including different views of the audience and speakers.
In support of this, the White House Council on Native American Affairs, WHCNAA, created the Best Practices Guide for Identifying and Protecting Tribal Treaty Rights, Reserve Rights, and other similar rights in federal regulatory actions and federal decision-making. This best practices guide identifies a list of fundamental principles for agencies to consider when creating their own tribal consultation policies. Because this course can't cover each agency's policies, you are expected to reach out to your agency's legal team and tribal liaison to learn more.
BIA.gov is typed into the URL line of a web browser, and the website appears. Then the Consultations menu item is selected and Resources is selected from the drop-down. The guides mentioned in the narration are highlighted.
Additionally, DOI's Bureau of Indian Affairs has created a helpful web page that includes information and resources for federal employees who participate in consultations. You can find it at BIA.gov and choose Resources from the Consultations menu.
A montage of images. The on-screen credit reads, USDA's Farm Service Agency, FSA, meet with members of the Blackfeet Extension Stock Growers, PHLI, Ag Producers, 2022, U.S. Department of Agriculture, FPAC photo by Preston Kears. Images showcase a group of people smiling together for a photo, a woman with a microphone speaking with a child smiling in the background, a group of people smiling for the camera, an image focusing on two men, one giving and one receiving a gift, a photo of flags in the Hall of Tribal Nations.
There you will find the Regulatory Affairs and Collaborative Action, RACA, Best Practices Guide, which provides agencies with guidance and strategies for effective consultation. It emphasizes the importance of building trust, being transparent, and ensuring that tribal input is integrated into the decision-making process.
Stock video of bison roaming the grassy plains with pine trees atop hills in the background, then a nighttime view of the Capitol building. Text on screen indicates the end of Module 2.
In this module, we have covered the historic and legal foundations underpinning the development and role of tribal consultation today, as well as the executive policy requirements for conducting tribal consultation. As a federal employee, you should now be able to summarize the historic and legal foundations underpinning the development and role of tribal consultation today, as well as the executive policy requirements for conducting tribal consultation.
On-screen text appears that reads, The White House Council on Native American Affairs in conjunction with the Department of the Interior, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, DOI University, and the Office of Personnel Management. For questions about this course, please contact RACA at BIA.gov. We gratefully recognize the contributions of the tribal leaders in the development of this training. The video ends.
In Module 3, we will discuss the roles and responsibilities of agencies in conducting tribal consultations.